Hey everyone, how's it going? My name's Ben. Welcome back to the channel. It's Tuesday morning, August 22nd. Yesterday morning, we got off the ferry here in Haines, Alaska, and I found this quick little campsite that we're posted up at so that I can do some research and figure out where the heck I'm going here in Alaska. So thanks to some feedback I got from you all and other folks that I talked to, I think I've come up with a plan for the next couple of days here. So right now, we are here in Haines, Alaska, and I think our plan is to head straight for Tuktoyaktuk on the Arctic Ocean. We're definitely up against changing seasons here, so we need to move kind of quick, but I also want to take my time with this whole thing. I'm in no rush. So it's about 1,600 Ks to get up there. If I'm averaging somewhere between 150, 250 Ks a day between campsites, I feel like that'll be a good pace, but we'll play it by ear and just see how it feels. And besides, we all know the Troopy isn't that fast, so we're gonna take our time no matter what. Now this campsite that we found is pretty incredible. I didn't learn until after we set up camp that it's in an area called Mosquito Lake. It definitely does live up to its name. The mosquitoes were out in full force around dusk last night, but with a thermocell and some bug spray, we managed to do all right. Now the cool thing is, right where we're camped, this feels like a little lake, but I think it's actually a little arm of the river. But the main arm of the river is just 100 yards away through this little grove of trees. Holy cow, this water is absolutely frigid. It is the coldest ice water you've ever gotten served to you at a restaurant. It is gorgeous. The river is flowing. You can tell behind me there's somewhere back here, there are some boats. I think this is a popular spot for river tours out of the town of Haines, rafting tours. But this is just absolutely incredible. The scenery everywhere you look in Alaska is as good as it gets, and I could not be more excited to continue this trip. Well, we've got camp packed up now, and Bandit is all loaded up, aren't you, bud? What do you think? And we are on our way to Haines Junction, which is about 120 miles from here in Canada. We'll hit the Canadian border here in, I think, just a few minutes. I think we're very close to it right now. So passport's ready, and let's see how that goes. Well, now it feels like we just hit a pretty big milestone on our trip here with our first international border crossing. We're officially in Canada, and that means the border crossing was not very intense. In fact, it was quite pleasant. Had a great conversation about the trip with the Canadian border security guard. And as we were driving along the Haines Highway, we decided to take this pullout for a quick little hike. I didn't take the pullout though because of the hike. I took it because of another car I saw in the parking lot. Check out this incredible Land Rover that is kitted up for a pretty serious journey as well. It's always exciting to see other rigs and meet other travelers that are doing this same type of journey. I don't know if I'll actually get to meet the owners of the rig, but we're parked next to them, and that's got to lend some good vibes to each other, I hope. Now this trail that we're on is apparently called the Chuck Creek Trail. It's 18 Ks long. I doubt we'll make it all the way, but regardless, it's a nice opportunity to get out of the Troopy and stretch our legs. One thing about traveling like this that I'm learning is that opportunities to split up the driving, to get out and be active, are important. It's way too easy to just sit in that driver's seat, get to camp, sit in the camp chair, and end up feeling like you had a pretty sedentary day, even though you're moving a lot. So I'm trying to be better about taking opportunities for hikes and other activities along the way that we find. We're also obviously, probably for the duration of this leg of the journey, in bear country, and that means I've got my bear spray handy, and it also means Bandit is on his leash. He's never met a bear before, and I don't want him to get excited about it and run off and try to say hi and be friends, and so that means safety first. Taking a little rest break on my sleeve. There's no nectar there for you. I'm sorry, dude. Well, you guys are probably gonna get sick of hearing me say this, but the scenery out here is just absolutely breathtaking. Everywhere you look is these rugged peaks and subalpine and alpine terrain. We made it to about the 2.5 kilometer point here on this hike. Got to the edge of the creek, and it's gonna be our turnaround point. That'll make it a nice little 5K round trip. But I gotta say, the scenery in the first 2Ks does make me wonder what the rest of the hike looks like, and I think if we were better prepared and in better shape to do the 10 or so mile round trip, it would probably be absolutely worth it. Well, after a couple hours on the road today, we've made it to our campsite for the night. We are at a Canadian provincial campground, I suppose, right on the edge of Kathleen Lake here in the Yukon. It's 20 minutes or so south of Haines Junction, and it's spectacular. It's 26 Canadian dollars a night, so in the US, I don't know what that is. It's a couple bucks, I'm sure. But it's an incredibly nice campground. The sites are private. You've got a lot of tree cover for shade, limited service, which is a blessing and a curse. But the coolest thing about all of these official campgrounds here in the Yukon is the free stacks of firewood that they give you. Right across from the campsite here, under that covered building, is just a bin of firewood that is free for the taking. And this is partly to prevent people from bringing their own firewood, which can transport pests and invasive species and funguses and things like that, I suppose. But it's also just really a nice convenience that makes you wish US Forest Service campgrounds would do something similar. Even though it feels unseasonably warm today, about 70 degrees or so, I'm thinking that the right call here is to go ahead and get a little fire going, and maybe the smoke will help keep some of the mosquitoes away. Now, this is actually my first real campfire of the trip, so you know I've got to make the most of it. Tonight, we've got some Korean marinated short ribs going down right over the campfire. This is going to be a great dinner. Well, now maybe it's a bit unconventional, but we're working with what we got until we can resupply in Haines Junction tomorrow. Bulgogi burritos with campfire roasted broccoli and shiitake mushrooms. That's what it's for dinner. There's nothing like cooking right over the campfire. It's a special thing. When you get the chance, you gotta take it. Oh yeah, that hits the spot all right. Well, not only was that a delicious dinner, but what's even better is I've got leftovers for lunch tomorrow. And with these reusable silicone stasher bags, they're heat resistant, so I'm able to just turn on the 12-volt oven when I'm ready for lunch, get that warmed up, stick this whole thing right in there, and then I've got a reheated lunch while I'm driving to my next destination. That's about as good as it gets. But right now it's time for cleanup, so let's get to that. Now, I'm definitely still really enjoying this Julka kitchen sink faucet, and I get a ton of use out of it. It's what I fill my water bottle with. It's what I fill Bandit's water bowl with. I use it for dishes all the time. I just wish that the flow control was better. Instead of this binary sort of on-off switch, I wish you had a dial that could, give you levels 1 through 10 of water flow or something like that. I have sort of learned how to just very, very gently move the toggle switch and manually control the flow like that, but it's a pain in the butt, and I just wish there was a version that had a little bit more control to it. Well, Bandit and I just spent the morning here at Kathleen Lake. I got the paddleboard in the water and we got to burn some energy, and we met some incredible folks. Pam from Calgary and Marianne from Whitehorse, they were just the kindest people in the world and gave me some great advice on where to go and what to see. And that's been one of my favorite things about this trip so far, is talking to folks and making connections and getting that sort of inside scoop on where people have been and what was worth it and what they'd recommend. We're on our way to Haynes Junction now, where we've got to resupply. The fridge is running empty, and we'll make a plan for the rest of the day once we get there. Well, we ended up doing more driving than I anticipated today. We made it a few hundred kilometers north of Haynes Junction. Haynes Junction is such a cool town. If you go through there, you've got to stop at the visitor center. It's the nicest visitor center I've ever seen in my life. Tons of great information, tons of great exhibits on the First Peoples in the area, the indigenous folks, and the Yukon in general. It was also a great town to resupply. Highly recommend the Village Bakery right there in town. I didn't get a lot of groceries, but I got a lot of baked goods, and we'll see how it fares for my waistline, but I'm excited for it. And what all that driving got us is a campsite right on the banks of this river here with glacial views, mountain peaks all around us. Really an incredible spot. Yeah. The highway's right there, but it's pretty low trafficked, and I'm sure overnight it won't be too bad. And besides, the river sounds will probably drown anything out for us. So I'm stoked on this spot. It's about 6:30 right now, so we might do some exploring along the banks of the river and then start thinking about what we're gonna do for dinner. Ben, are you in your favorite spot? You love laying under the truck, huh? Get that shade. Good job, bud. One thing that's really exciting on this trip, some of you may know I'm a huge rock nerd. I love looking at rocks, and something like this on the banks of a glacial river is just phenomenal rock hounding. It is so silty here on the banks though, and I'm sure in the river itself, that you almost have to watch your step because it could be like quicksand. It just instantly goes from solid to incredibly deep mud. Oh, Bandit's gonna demonstrate for us, because he loves to be muddy. I almost think of it like treasure hunting, keeping my eyes on the ground for interesting looking rocks, and there is no shortage of them right here. Gosh, that is incredible. Nearly 10 p.m. and this is the daylight we've got left. Well, now today is August 24th, and that means it's my birthday. 32 years old. Another orbit around the sun complete, and hopefully many more to go. The Troopy decided to give me a present this morning. I've got too much slack in the accelerator pedal and cable assembly. It doesn't look like the issue's at the carburetor because the linkages and the spring returns there seem to be functioning properly. So my thinking is that it's at the accelerator pedal. The spring return on the accelerator pedal seems to be okay. I've disconnected things. So I pulled the pedal assembly away from the firewall to check this spring, and I mean, the spring is springing. So that seems all right, I suppose. Well, we're making progress here. I think we've got a couple of different issues going on. The pedal at least springs back now. This pedal return spring was not positioned properly. Somehow that came off of this clip, which I think is where it's supposed to sit, and so there's no tension on the spring. So now it returns. Well, I think for now we're back in business. Things seem to be working normally again. So I think the plan is going to be to baby it for a little while, see if we can get closer to town, closer to some civilization and maybe some cell reception, and just take it one step at a time. We're good enough to hobble along, I think. I've got good throttle response. It feels like it did before all of this started happening. So let's give it a whirl. It's all part of the adventure, baby. Well, the adventure has begun. As you can tell, the hood is up, we're on the side of the road, and we're broken down, and I'm at a loss for what the issue could be. 2 days ago, I had some carburetor trouble. My accelerator got wonky, but I got that sorted, and the Troopy was driving pretty good. This morning, leaving Chicken, the Troopy fired up, no problems, and then it died on me. About 500 feet out of where I was camped, and I couldn't get it to turn over again. Luckily, I was on a hill, and I was able to get going downhill and bump start it, and said, okay, the next town is about 80 miles away. I'll get there, and we'll have some services and be able to sort out the issues. As I was coming down this beautiful top-of-the-world highway, started running really rough, sounding not right. And then all of a sudden, loud clanging and banging, metal on metal, popped out of gear. I couldn't get it back in gear, and then it just died on me. As I popped the hood, there was smoke coming out of the carburetor, there was smoke coming out of the engine block, and there was oil coming out of the engine block. So I think we've got some big problems on our hands. Not problems I'm going to be able to fix on the side of the road. I've got a town. Tok is about 80 miles behind me. Dawson City is about 80 miles in front of me, give or take. I think this is one we're going to have to tow into town and get some professional help on. I'm trying to remain in good spirits here. It's all part of the journey, right? I'm not going to lie to you, it's a little bit tough to remain in good spirits. I think, depending on how big this issue is, right, where that metal on metal grinding was coming from, if it's a blown motor, we're in a world of hurt. If it's a transmission, that wouldn't be good either, but probably easier to resolve. But either way, I can't help but think that this is the type of issue that could be a temporary showstopper. We could miss our window to get to the Arctic Ocean. That's all part of life, right? We take the hits and we roll with them. Luckily, this is a pretty well-traveled highway. I don't have any service out here, right? We're in the middle of nowhere. But right as I broke down, an Alaska State Trooper came by. Russ, a very nice guy. He had something to do up the road about 5 miles, but he said he would be back, make sure I'm all squared away. And so, and I've got the Starlink. I can set that up and I can get in touch with help, and I've got an inReach. So either way, we're not going to be stranded out here, and I've got food and water. We're ready for it, but this is one of those rough ones that you just got to roll with the punches.